Hello student, today I will explain you the distributed Dbms architecture. As you know, I have explained two architecture. First one client server system architecture, second one peer-to-peer distributed system architecture. Today I will explain you multi-database system architecture. So, multi-database system architecture, first we define it. A multi-database system is distributed system designed to integrate data and provide access to a collection of pre-existing local database managed by heterogeneous DBMS. As you know, what is difference between homogeneous and heterogeneous? So here it is managed by heterogeneous DBMS. A multi-database system is a database system that provide integrated global access to autonomous heterogeneous local database through a single request. So we can define in this way. Now, the difference in the level of autonomy between the distributed multi-DBMS and distributed DBMS are also reflected in their architectural model. The fundamental difference relate to the definition of the global conceptual schema. In the case of logical integrated distributed DBMS, the global conceptual schema defines the conceptual view of the entire database, while in the case of distributed multiple DBMS, it represents only the collection of some of the local database that each local DBMS want to share. Thus, the definition of a global database is different in MDBS than in distributed DBMS. Now, here we categorize these into two parts. First one is model using global conceptual schema, which is represented with GCS, and second one is model without a global conceptual schema. So we will explain one by one. The first one is model using a global conceptual schema. In an MDBS, that is multi-DBMS database system, the global conceptual schema is defined by integrating either the external schema of local autonomous database or part of their local conceptual schema. Furthermore, user of a local DBMS define their own view on the local database and do not need to change their application if they do not want to access data from the database. So this is again an issue of autonomy. Designing the global conceptual schema is multi-base system involves the integration of either the local conceptual schema or the local external schemas. A major difference between the design of the global conceptual schema in multi-DBMS and in logically integrated distributed DBMS is that in the former, the mapping in from a local conceptual schema to a global schema. Here you can see the distributed DBMS architecture model using a GCS. Once the GCS has been designed, a view over the global schema can be defined for user who require global access. It is not necessary for the GES and GCS to be defined using the same data model and language, whether they do or not determine whether the system is homogeneous or heterogeneous. If heterogeneous exists in the system, then two implementation alternative exist: unilingual and multilingual. A unilingual multi-DBMS requires the user to utilize possibly different data models and languages when both a local database and the global database are accessed. The identified characteristic of unilingual system is that any application that accesses data from multi-database must do so by means of an external view that is defined on global conceptual schema. This means that the user of the global database is effectively a different user than those who access only a local database, utilizing a different data model and a different data language. Thus, one application may have a local external schema, which is represented with LES, defined on the local conceptual schema, as well as a global external schema, which is defined with GES, defined on the global conceptual schema. The different external view definition may require the use of different access languages. From the above figure, actually it depicts the data logical model of an unilingual database system that integrate the local conceptual schema into a global conceptual schema. Now, an alternative is multilingual architecture, where the basic philosophy is to permit each user to access the global database by means of an external schema defined using the language of the user's local Dbms. The GCS definition is quite similar in the multilingual architecture and the unilingual approach. The major difference being the definition of the external schema, which are described in the language of the external schema of the local database. The multilingual approach obviously makes querying the database easier from the user's perspective. However, it is more complicated because we must deal with translations of queries at runtime. Now, the second one is distributed DBMS architecture model without a GCS. One was with GCS and second is without a GCS. That is, so here in distributed DBMS architecture model without a GCS. The architecture depicted in the above figure identified two layers: the local system layer and multi-database layer on top of it. The local system layer consists of a number of DBMS which present to a multi-database layer the part of their local database they are willing to share with users of other database. This shared data is presented either as the actual local conceptual schema or as the local external schema definition. From this figure, it shows this layer as a collection of local conceptual schema. If heterogeneity is involved, each of these schema may use a different data model. From this figure, the above this layer external view are constructed where each view may be defined on one local conceptual schema or on multiple conceptual schema. Thus, the responsibility of providing access to multiple database is delegated to the mapping between the external schema and the local conceptual schema. Now, here the MDB provide a layer of software that run on the top of these individual DBMS and provide user with the facility of accessing various databases. For example, it represent a number of distributed multi-DBMS. If the system is distributed, it would need to replicate the multi-database layer to each site where there is a local DBMS that participate in the system. So the component-based architecture model of a multi-DBMS is significantly different from distributed DBMS. The fundamental difference is the existence of full-fledged DBMS, each of which manage a different database. The MDBS provides a layer of software that run on top of these individual DBMS and provide user with the facility of accessing various databases. Depending on the existing of the global conceptual schema or the existing of heterogeneity, the contents of this layer of the software would change significantly. Thank you for watching my video lecture. I hope you all understand. Thank you.